Joining us now from Washington is Stephen Cook, Senior Fellow for Middle Eastern Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations, as well as author of The End of Ambition, America's Past, Present and Future in the Middle East. And welcome back. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so there's this growing number of Israelis who not only support a ceasefire in Gaza and in return for the rest of the hostages, but they also believe Prime Minister Netanyahu needs to do more to make that happen. And that was a question which was put to US President Joe Biden. Here it is.
Do you think he's doing enough?
No.
So no confusion there over Biden's position. And in fact, the only support for Netanyahu is coming from the far-right extremists within his coalition, people like Ben Gvir. Here's where he stands on Gaza.
We
will do our job so that Netanyahu does not back off, so that there is no reckless deal, so that we do not negotiate with those who murdered, raped, slaughtered, burned. There is only one way to talk with Hamas, through weapon sites.
You know, with friends like that. Is Netanyahu out of options here, or is fast running out of options?
Well, I mean, that's the problem. The fact that Itamar Ben-Gvir has vowed to hold Netanyahu's feet to the fire, and he's the key to maintaining Netanyahu's government. So in ways, there is no much more that the prime minister can do, despite the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of Israelis in the streets demanding that he do more. If he were to do more, it would bring down his government.
Well, Israel's Haaretz newspaper makes this point. Public sentiment is ultimately what will decide whether one of the darkest chapters in Israel's history ends now, or whether we allow ourselves to be pulled down the abyss by Netanyahu and his far-right allies. If public sentiment really had that much sway, then wouldn't a deal have happened long ago? And what will it take for that to actually happen, to convince Netanyahu to change course? And, you know, is there any point... if Netanyahu cannot govern as prime minister, which it seems to be the case, then why not let the government collapse? Why not let it fall?
Right. Well, despite what Haaretz says, Netanyahu has a coalition of 64 seats in the Knesset, an absolute majority that he needs, and a little bit of a cushion. So despite public sentiment, given the way that Israel's electoral laws are set up, he can remain as prime minister, and this government can continue and fulfill its term, which would end in 2026. Netanyahu would either have to resign and hand the government over to someone else, and the Israelis would organize elections in the next 45 to 60 days, or parties from the outside would have to vow to support Netanyahu through a hostage deal, because Ben Gvir and others would likely bolt that government. That's a possibility. Yair Lapid, who is one of the opposition leaders, has said that he would support the government from the outside so long as there is a hostage deal, but would only support Netanyahu for the hostage deal.
Well, the latest sticking deal in these ceasefire talks is over the Philadelphia corridor. Here's the Prime Minister explaining what that is and why Israel wants to retain control.
Philadelphia corridor is the border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. And once we left it, there's no barrier there against infiltration of arms and weapons and means for digging tunnels.
I've reported from the Philadelphia corridor back when it was under Israeli control. It's a no man's land, and Israel military outposts there come under near constant attack. But the Prime Minister's claim about no barrier isn't true. I mean, for a start, the Egyptian security routinely finds and floods smuggling tunnels. They intercept weapons and other contraband. They've been doing this since the Gaza disengagement in 2005. Now, maybe could it be better? Sure. What are Israel's security options here, though, short of permanent control of the Philadelphia corridor?
Well, on this question of the Philadelphia corridor, I think Netanyahu is on stronger ground than some of his critics might suggest. It is clear that Hamas has been resupplied through the tunnels that are dug underneath the Philadelphia corridor. There are members of the Egyptian security forces who are complicit in the smuggling under the Gaza-Egypt border. And that's why it's been so difficult for the Israelis to get a handle on this. And that's why they're now saying, or at least Prime Minister Netanyahu is now saying, that the IDF needs a presence on the Philadelphia corridor. Of course, this is in violation of an agreement, a diplomatic agreement that they made with Egypt in 2005 when they initially withdrew from the Gaza Strip. But nevertheless, this is a significant security concern for the Israelis. And if they do want to make sure that Hamas cannot resupply itself, there is this question of who controls the Philadelphia corridor and how to plug up those tunnels that are being dug underneath with, in some cases, the complicity of Egyptian security services.
Stephen, thank you for being with us. Really appreciate it. Stephen Cook there, Senior Fellow, Middle Eastern Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations.
Thank you.